Students and faculty, my name is Alex Lawson, and I am the president of the SCSU chapter of College Democrats. As students, we represent an important voting bloc that, if mobilized, could make a difference in today's politics. We live in an era of attack ads and extreme partisanship. The media is a questionable source of information, and the use of newspapers has decreased drastically in the last decade. As students, we should be more capable of blocking out the noise and getting to the facts. Today is a special day because it raises awareness about the election in November. It is a special day because Democratic candidate for Senate, Chris Murphy, is with us on campus. He is here to talk to us about the upcoming election and how he's the candidate that will fight for our interests in Washington. The Senate race in Connecticut is one of the most important senatorial races in the country. It is a race between big money and experience. Chris Murphy is currently serving his third term in Congress for Connecticut's 5th District. Prior to the U.S. Congress, he served in the Connecticut General Assembly for 8 years. He has been an adamant supporter of the Affordable Care Act, equal rights, education, and renewable energy. Electing Chris would mean that we would have a senator in Washington who has met with us students and understands what issues matter most to us. As students of this university, we do research on a daily basis. Therefore, we should be well equipped to understand the issues of today. Having done my research, I believe that Chris Murphy is the right candidate for us. He is the one who will continue to help President Obama in Washington and help ensure that America continues to be the envy of the world. If you support Chris Murphy, you will prove that money cannot buy an election and that government is there to make sure that everyone gets a fair shot, not just the top earning people. You will show that your interest lies in the candidate who has an interest in you. Ladies and gentlemen, Chris Murphy.
Well, thank you very much, Alex, and thank you very much to Representative Holder Winfield. Gary and I are good friends, and he's done a fantastic job representing New Haven and being a great spokesman for all of you. Thank you to the College Democrats for all of your fantastic work and for convincing so many of your friends to turn out here today. Listen, what I'd like to do is tell you a little bit about the issue that's dominating the headlines this week, and then after I'm done, just break up and be able to talk to each other one-on-one. So I think it'd be nice to be able to meet all of you guys and be able to chat for a little while before we all have to head out. So let me first say that this is a special audience for me. You're obviously looking at one of the younger candidates for the United States Senate in the country, and frankly that's always been the case. I've always been one of the youngest people running for whatever legislative office I was running for. I actually started out right after college helping to organize students from the CSU campuses to come up to the Capitol and protest a 10% tuition tax hike that our then governor was imposing on students and families across the state. And so I started out in politics right after college organizing students and organizing families. And today I really feel that as one of the younger people in politics, I have an obligation to stand up for you. And so I want to talk about an issue today that's on the front burner for a lot of young people, and in particular a lot of young women across the state today. You're going to go home tonight and you're going to see ads talking about the big differences between Linda McMahon and I when it comes to the issue of women's health care. Now, you know what's going on in Washington, right? You've seen this assault on women that's been waged by Republicans. It's an assault on contraception, it's an assault on preventative health care, it's an assault on pay equity. It's essentially an attempt by the right wing in Washington to reverse women's rights about 50 years. And the fight as to whether we're going to allow that to happen is going to be waged right here in Connecticut over the course of the next 6 weeks. Now, I'm really proud of the record that I've had when it comes to women's rights. And I want to talk about that for a second, because this is what we're talking about this week. This is what you're going to see on TV tonight. When I first ran for the state legislature, I put together a coalition of women's groups to mount a campaign against one of the leading anti-choice, anti-women state legislators in the state of Connecticut. He was one of about 4 legislators who were identified in 1998 as stopping legislation from moving forward that would allow women across the state to get insurance coverage for prescription birth control. We won that race in 1998, and a year later, in part because we got rid of this one anti-choice legislator, we were able to pass in Connecticut a landmark law that required insurance companies to cover prescription birth control, to make it part of the basic preventative health care package. I was fortunate enough a few years later to be elected to the United States Congress, where I was front and center in passing the health care reform law. That law ends forever the policy of women being treated differently than men when it comes to health care costs. Being a woman, up until this law was passed, was considered a pre-existing condition. That's crazy. And the health care law forever ends that practice. And as part of that law, I wrote a portion that's going to be incredibly important in women's health care moving forward. I wrote a portion of that bill that would set up offices of women's health care in all of the main federal health care agencies to make sure that when we're doing public education campaigns or drug testing, that we're making sure that women's voices are considered in all of those issues. And my commitment as a U.S. Senator is to never, ever support a leader of my party or a chairman of the Judiciary Committee that would oppose a woman's right to choose or put judges on the Supreme Court bench that would overturn Roe v. Wade. That's my commitment. So I'm proud to have been a lifelong, career-long supporter of the effort to advance women's health care rights. Add on top of that the fact that I'm a proud supporter of the Lilly Ledbetter Act that would better allow women to contest gender discrimination lawsuits, and a big believer in the Pay Equity Act that would start putting real teeth into our pay equity laws. You know, and here's the difference, though, between me and my opponent. Linda McMahon goes out there and tells people that she's pro-choice, but she's not. She's not pro-choice. Because if she was elected to the United States Senate, she would vote for leadership of her party that would stop at absolutely nothing to overturn Roe v. Wade. She'd put as chairman of the Judiciary Committee someone that would require Supreme Court justices to be anti-choice in order to be put onto the bench. She advertises openly that she supports something called the Blunt Amendment. The Blunt Amendment is a proposal in the United States Senate to allow any employer across the state to end coverage for prescription birth control for their employees. Linda McMahon would overturn the law that says that women can't be treated differently than men when it comes to health care costs. Linda McMahon would be a disaster for women's health care. Not only would she empower the right wing, which is seeking to roll back women's rights 50 years, but she herself says that she would side with that crowd when it comes to ending prescription birth control coverage for women. And when she was asked the other day about the Lilly Ledbetter Act, she didn't even know what it was. She said she needed a little bit of time to give you her answer on whether she'd stand up for women's pay equity. The differences couldn't be clearer. And Linda McMahon's ad on TV today is insulting to women. You might not have seen it yet, but she basically says that women should vote for her just because she's a woman. Don't pay attention to my positions on the issues. Don't pay attention to the people that I would empower. Don't pay attention to my ignorance when it comes to women's pay equity. Just vote for me because I'm a woman. That's insulting to women. But it's frankly emblematic of her whole campaign. Linda McMahon doesn't want the voters of Connecticut to know where she stands on the issues. She wants this campaign to be about personal attacks rather than about her right-wing agenda for the state. And so we're going to talk over and over again about this issue because it's important for people to know not only what I've done to stand up for women's health care, but also for people to understand where Linda McMahon has been. And we're not going to stop there. We're going to talk about the difference between our two candidacies and our positions on a number of issues. We're going to talk about taxes. The voters deserve to know the difference between Linda McMahon and I. Linda McMahon supports another round of tax breaks for millionaires, including a $7 million tax break for herself. I don't support another round of tax breaks for millionaires. I think we should take that money and put it into the hands of middle-class families. Put it back into the educational system. Use it to maybe even lower your tuition, right? That's what I think we should do with that money, right? I want to talk in this race about the differences between her and I when it comes to manufacturing. Linda McMahon supports tax breaks for outsourcers. I support tax breaks for insourcers. I want to make sure that jobs stay here. I'm the leader of the Buy America movement to make sure that our work stays in this country rather than our taxpayer dollars going overseas. There's big differences between the two of us on that issue. I want to talk about the difference between her and I when it comes to the environment. I have a lifetime 98% voting record from the League of Conservation Voters. I've been a leader on environmental issues in the state legislature and in Washington. Linda McMahon's entire environmental policy seems to be building a new pipeline to bring dirty tar sands oil into this country from Canada. No mention in her economic plan of the transformative power of renewable energy. So this campaign is going to be about issues. I can guarantee you that. And at the top of the list, for a lot of young women in this state, is going to be the issue of women's health care. But one of the things that Linda McMahon says about this issue is that, I don't know why, Murphy is focusing so much on this issue of women's health care. He should be focused on economic issues. Well, you know what? Health care is an economic issue. For young people especially, right? For a young woman who has to pay out of her pocket for contraception coverage on a week after week, month after month, that can break the bank. For a young person that can't find health insurance because they have a pre-existing condition, or a young woman who has to pay 50% more in her premiums just because gender is treated differently for premium purposes, that can run your bank account dry. Healthcare is an economic issue. Now, it might not be an economic issue if you're worth $1 billion, right? Yeah. For Linda McMahon, healthcare is not an economic issue, right? Because she can afford all the healthcare she needs. But for average families and average young Connecticut residents, healthcare is an economic issue. Access to prescription birth control is an economic issue. And so that's what we're going to talk about in this campaign. We're going to talk about issues. And I'm going to be proud to stand up for you guys. I'm going to be proud to be your United States Senator. I'm going to be proud to stick up for you when it comes to making sure that we invest money in education, not in tax breaks for the wealthy. I'm going to be proud to stick up for you when it comes to making sure that you have access to the health care that you deserve. I'm going to be proud to stick up for you to make sure that we're growing jobs that pay you an honest wage in this country rather than sending those jobs overseas. But I'm going to need you because I am going to be overwhelmed with money in this race. I don't have the kind of millions that Linda McMahon does, but what I have and what we have is heart. What we have is a belief that our mission is right. What we have is an understanding that these elections can't be bought. And what we have is a confidence that if this campaign is about issues that matter to women, issues that matter to young families, issues that matter to the unemployed, then we win. Linda McMahon is scared to death of a campaign based on the issues, right? And we're going to make sure that we deliver that campaign to students, to families, and to voters over the course of the next 6 weeks. Southern, thank you very much for having me here. Let's go out and win this race. Thank you, everybody.